Hello and welcome, and let's talk further amongst the National Hockey League and how there are more goals being scored, as well as more empty net goals, I think, which is helping towards the increase in scoring. But more goals will just make two-goal differential games more common. And this graph represents over the last 40 days or 40 games that have been played, at least in schedule order from the data that I receive, the percentage of wins that were won by the home game during that period that were won by at least two goals. So therefore, currently, over the last 40 games, about 63% of the games are won by two goals or more, 37% by one. And 63% is pretty much very close to what this average is. We'll get to that in a little bit. And there's some interesting cycles when I put in historical years of the past. Let's put in last year. Now, last year, scoring was increased more than it was years prior, but not as much as this year, as it's increasing a lot more this year. Now, on such here, we can see that it's just an up and down choppy. It ranged from 40 up to past 70. It doesn't. Maybe you notice Blue's doing a little bit better. It's doing a lot, but overall, just back and forth. But of note, it kind of is moving a little bit in harmony, but you'll see that even more when we put in the previous year. And I just don't know why it's doing this, but this is a little too thick. And I don't even try going to the 4 number. Let's put in the year prior to that, which would have been when Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner were both rookies in the NHL. And I know the yellow line isn't the greatest, but it kind of is working in harmony still nonetheless. If I put in a season many years ago in 2003, this is what comes up in that such, and it's just gonna and then the final one, which is from 1983. I just took one of the random years, and it really wasn't random. It's just that was the year I would consider, and this is where a lot of these games were really high scoring. Now it does seem as if the up and down moves do move in harmony, something to look at later on, but I put up a different chart, which is a running average chart. And the blue line represents this year, which is stating for this season so far, a little over 65% of the time the home team wins, they win by 2. And I'll be checking road team stats for the exact same thing moving forward. And in the last 2 years, which is the green and the orange colors, it was a little under 60%. Back in 2003-4, it was even lower than that. It was about 55%. Yet, in 1983, it was 78%, and Wayne Gretzky was leading the league with over 200 points a season. But regardless of the fact, these numbers are higher. Of note, because when things start off wild to one side or another, you're going to get movements like we see with this yellow line. How after 40 periods, it was a lot of low-scoring games to start the first few days of the season off. And it gradually would pick up, and then it settled in, of course, moving up towards the .55. The 1983 season, starting at the .55 mark, had a huge liftoff, so it started the season as well off the similar sort of way, where there wasn't as many goals early, and then it came through. Recently, I've noticed October higher scoring months, and all thus the blue, the orange, and the green show that it starts higher and moves its way down. But when I look at things like how this blue line supports a 65, goes up to 68, back down, that means this move is settling in, and we're really starting to find the average. And we can see how the green and orange lines really did find that average in at around 0.57 amongst that. And it looks like it's going to be changing, and it's going to be somewhere between 6.2 to 6.7 within the season as this continues on moving forward. And that makes this play of betting on teams to win by 2 extremely profitable. Let's take a look at some mathematics. And the first thing, just some line changes. This is maybe a few hours after the video I did before when I made my original wagers. The New York Rangers was plus 231. Price dropped at 224, so it got the bet in my favor. Toronto line got worse again, so that was good as it's now minus 120, or worse for you wanting to play. Vegas moving up from 142 to 148, so that's where the line got better, or worse. And 196 to 191 for Dallas. So overall, I got better lines, getting them early than late. Now we look at the mathematics. The money line for the Dallas Stars at one site would say 148 negative and positive 125. For me to find the mathematical chances, they say one team is going to win. I put these numbers in the middle. So the differential of the points would be, considering it's a 23-point differential, it's a differential of 11.5. So minus 136.5 plus 136.5. If I take 1 divided by, I always put a 2 in front of this, and if it's plus 230, you make it a 3. But 2.365, and then I get the chances for the New York Islanders win, which is 42.28%, which means it's got to be 57.72% for the only other choice, and that's a Dallas win. Therefore, as we've seen in the chart, if it's 65% that a team will be winning by 2 goals in the modern day of hockey, I could take 65% and multiply 57.72. And that tells me that, first of all, I'm not going to care about the 42% chances they lose because it's going to be a losing bet. So the other 57%, only 65% of those ones are going to be winners, thus making your chances 0.3752. So here you are betting on something you think you're going to lose because you got a 37.5% chance of winning, but it's a positive bet. For 1 divided by that number, which is on the 0.3752, equals 2.67, which means anything north of plus 167 is value within the wager. And because the price was at 196 and is at 191 within these odds, that means you are getting positive return on investment when you can get that good of a differential within price. That is amazing. So for the most part, you want to be able to just find the teams that you like, and if you like them, for the most part, win by 2. So the odds of break even on the plus 191 money line. And they said in college or high school even that you would never use this algebra in real life. Well, I do. X% multiply 57.72. Why am I using 57.72? Well, that's the chances they win. Equals 1 divided by 2.91, which of course is what the price is. So I want to see within the plus 191 price what the fair likelihood or what the odds I need to break even is. So I can just move the X beside that, and that equals to, when you calculate that is 0.3436. You divide the two, that means they are saying that there's a 59.5% likelihood. So as long as it's greater than that number there, and stating you agree with the chance that the odds are what they say, Dallas is a 57.7% chance of winning, then you're now all of a sudden maybe making a terrible bet on the money line for either side, but you'd be making a good bet for the puck line, laying the 1.5 goals, because we're seeing in the metagame where this number is getting greater than 62, 63%. So if that number stays within the range, and it's going to be 3/5 to 2/3 of the time that these teams win by multiple goals, then the strategy will remain profitable. And it will do so until they change the odds, because if they're going to have minus 148 plus 125, and that means that fair price is plus 167, that means they got to go like plus 150 minus 180 differential. So that means you'd be getting plus 150 minus a goal and a half for Dallas, and you'd be going minus 180 plus a goal and a half, and now that system would this would no longer come into play. I have to think that if that's going to probably be the one full year where there'd be still solid value within this, as you may not see lines really get adjusted for these until maybe next season. But it's if okay, I'm wagering on it, so I'm most certainly going to keep an eye on how they keep their lines in place. But they haven't changed them yet, and I don't see them doing it any time in the near term. Okay, so thank you for tuning in, and most likely what's going to happen now, I've given away this information, whether it was a smart play or not, given that there's like no views. Then I realized that, wow, I can actually influence a sports book, because if any of the big books see this, they would probably realize, hey, let's check the statistics, let's do some number crunching, which I'm surprised they're not doing like I am doing, and then adjust to such so that it works out. But they're using the mathematical odds. If a money line is this and an over-under total is this, then this is what the puck line is, based on how hockey was in the last many years. But the metagame changes. Thank you for tuning in.